Now, the reason I say that everything in the end becomes the Andrew Klavan show is because David Brooks, one of the most purblind writers at the New York Times, a former newspaper, is finally catching on. A little light has gone on in the little mind of David Brooks. So let us take a trip to what I like to call the op-ed page of the New York Times, or as I like to call it, Knucklehead Road.
Oh, hey, hey, oh, hey, ho, let's go waltzing down to Knucklehead Road.
So all day long, all we heard was Donald Trump is nuts, and we need to start thinking about the 25th Amendment. We need to get rid of him, blah, 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 blah. You know, it's this nonsense. This is stuff that they talk about in the Beltway. Nobody else believes it. Nobody else is going to do anything about it. Not going to happen. It doesn't exist. It's not a real thing. It's just something that's only happening in the minds of these people, like the fact that 2% of their audience at the NFL is being lost and it has nothing to do with the flag. That kind of craziness is just in the minds of these people. David Brooks, this little glimmer of light now breaks through at the New York Times. Here's what he says. Let me start with 3 inconvenient observations based on dozens of conversations around Washington over the past year. First, people who go into the White House to have a meeting with President Trump usually leave pleasantly surprised. They find that Trump is not a raving madman they expected from his tweet storms or the media coverage. They generally say that he's affable if repetitive. He runs a normal, good meeting and seems well informed enough to get by. Second, people who work in the Trump administration have wildly divergent views about their boss. Some think he's a deranged child, as Michael Wolff reported in this new book, Fire and Fury, but some think he is merely a distraction they can work around. Some think he is strange, but not impossible. Some genuinely admire Trump. Many filter out his crazy stuff and pretend it doesn't exist. My impression is that the Trump administration is an unhappy place to work because there's a lot of infighting and often no direction from the top. But this is not an administration full of people itching to invoke the 25th Amendment. Third, the White House is getting more professional. Imagine if Trump didn't tweet. The craziness of the past weeks would be out of the way, and we'd see a White House that is briskly pursuing its goals. The shift in our Pakistan policy, the shift in our offshore drilling policy, the fruition of our ISIS policy, the nomination for judgeships, and the formation of policies on infrastructure, DACA, North Korea, and trade. So in other words, David Brooks is suddenly noticing that things are going rather well at the White House, and so maybe Trump is not out of his mind. Maybe he's not so crazy. The alternative theory that they're now putting forward, Ross Douthat, also at Knucklehead Road, put this forward. Also, Jonah Goldberg, one of my favorite writers, put this forward. The idea that essentially the White House is being run in spite of Donald Trump. In spite of Donald Trump, everybody's running around getting stuff done. And by the way, any place you work, people think they're getting stuff done in spite of the boss. That's true anyway. That's true here. It's true any place. Everybody always thinks, yeah, you know, as long as we can keep the boss out of the way, we'll get this stuff done. You know, it's definitely true on this show particularly. But this is like a typical thing that people think in any organization. But obviously, the smarter, a more Occam's razor, simpler explanation is that Donald Trump has a chaotic governing style that has served him well for 30 or 40 years. It has given him success, and he keeps doing this. It's a little chaotic. It's a little bit, putting people off against each other, but it's not any different than all these other presidents. Victor Davis Hanson writes about the fact that Lyndon Johnson used to walk around and expose himself to his staff. He used to talk to people while he was on the toilet and argue with them on the toilet. John Kennedy banged so many of his staffers that they would come in. They wouldn't be able to interrupt him with important national security news because he would be between 2 different women at the same time. I mean, the White House is always been a slightly chaotic place. We just used to hide it a little better, but Trump thrives on it, so he's doing it.